Welcome to Sighișoara, Romania. We're going to be spending the next week in this colorful medieval town, and in this video we'll show you the best things we ate, the coolest things we saw, and if you stay tuned to the end, we'll give you a tour of our Airbnb and a breakdown of all of our expenses.
The Citadel of Sighișoara is located on top of a hill.
Yeah, there's multiple stairways that you can use to access the top, and there are even a couple of access roads. There are a few restaurants up there and a few hotels, but we decided to stay down in the main town where there are more restaurant options. But we're gonna head up now and check out the Citadel.
We made it to the main square, and wow, this place is way more touristy than Oradea was.
Yeah, but I can kind of see why. The buildings are very colorful, and it has those charming little cobblestone streets, and then there is like a wall surrounding the whole Citadel where there's still some towers standing. So we're gonna check all that out today, but it definitely is beautiful. Our first stop after the main square was the monastery church. I believe this is the oldest church in Sighișoara, and the entrance was 10 lei per person.
It was built in 1298, and it was destroyed during a Mongolian invasion, and it was rebuilt in 1482.
There were originally 14 towers built and rebuilt between the 13th and 17th centuries. Now only 9 are left standing.
So we're currently making our way around the wall and checking out all the towers.
Only one has had a museum in it. The rest of them have been completely closed, but they are in really nice condition and very beautiful. They go the perimeter of the Citadel, and it really makes for some beautiful photos. Well, David was starting to get a little hungry, so we decided we would go ahead and stop for lunch, and we are at Terraza Grill. I ordered the pork schnitzel, and it doesn't come with any sides. It was 36 lei, so the prices are definitely a bit higher than they were in Oradea. David actually ordered the pork shank, which came with a beef stew and horseradish sauce, but you can see they brought him barbecue ribs instead with potato wedges, so I'm not sure how much that's gonna be.
Last tower we're visiting is the clock tower.
Now this one is definitely the largest and most impressive tower, and usually you can go to the top, but right now it does look like they're doing some restoration work, so I'm not sure if we'll be able to do it, but we're gonna go see. In today's episode of Incorrect History.
So you know how they say there's no more than 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon? Well, behind me is Kevin Bacon's grandfather, Joseph Bacon. So because of the restoration work, we weren't able to go up to the balcony of the clock tower, but we were able to go into the museum, which was 20 lei per person.
Yeah, the museum was pretty neat. It was on different levels of the clock tower, so we made it all the way up to the figurines, which is pretty close to the top. There were different pieces of furniture. There were things explaining the history of the town. But the most interesting thing I thought was that the reason that all those towers are named like the Butcher's Tower, or the Tin Maker's Tower, or whatever, is because that guild was in charge of manning that tower and making sure that it was watched 24/7. So I thought that was kind of neat. And then at the top, we did get to see the clock mechanism and also all the little figurines, which they have a day and night figurine on one side, and then on the other side, they have a different figurine that pops out each day of the week.
So after the clock tower museum, we head back to the Airbnb for a bit.
And now we're getting hungry again, so we're going to head back out. I think we're going to go get some pizza. We really enjoyed the pizza that we had in Aradia, so hopefully they do as good a job here.
We're happy to report that the pizza was just as good, if not better, than the one we had in Aradia. Romanians really know how to make some pizza.
All right, so our first stop here was to head to Lidl grocery store. You can see there we got a 6-pack of sparkling water, we got a bottle of wine, we've got milk, eggs, we've got 4 different kinds of cured meats, we have 4 different kinds of cheeses, we've got butter, we've got apples, tomatoes, a couple pretzels, a couple pastries, some snack mix, and 3 different dark chocolate bars. All of this set us back 230 lei. In today's episode of Incorrect History,
Behind me is a statue of Petrofi Sandor, the inventor of mousse. Just look at that impressive hair.
behind me now is the covered staircase. It was built so that way churchgoers and school children could get up to the church and the schoolhouse at the very top of the hill, even in rain, sleet, and snow.
Just made up the 176 steps of the covered stairway, and the views are totally worth it.
Yeah, very beautiful up here. We are going to try to go check out the church, and I believe that there's a little cemetery around back. So this church cost 10 lei each to get in, and it does include the crypts that we're currently in now. While the church was originally built in 1300, in the 1930s they did a big renovation, and originally in all these little niches there were actual just bones, so they gathered them all up, they buried them, and then they kind of plastered over them. So now you can come and you can check it out.
Join us for more Incorrect History.
Behind me, you can see the tombstone of Stephanus Man, and as you can tell, he was a very important person. He was the burger master, or the inventor of the hamburger.
We found an alternate path down the hill, and now we're back in the old town, and I'm getting kind of hungry.
Yeah, so we are going to head into a restaurant called the Medieval Cafe Restaurant for some traditional Romanian food.
Just finished our lunch at the medieval restaurant.
They had meat, which they said were extra large, and they were 12 lei each. The other meat we've had are like 5 or 6 lei, so I was hoping that they would be twice the size of regular meat, and they were. They were actually a little bit spicy, and then you could really taste the lamb in them, so they were really yummy. I enjoyed those. And then what did you get?
I got the schnitzel, and it came with some golden potatoes and a kind of a different kind of pickled mushroom. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, it was kind of like almost like the bread and butter style pickles that we have in the U.S., but with mushrooms.
Yeah.
So that was really tasty as well. And the price was fairly reasonable. We got 4 bottles of sparkling water. We were really thirsty. We did have some more plans today, but I don't know if you can see behind us, the sky is getting very dark. So I think we're just going to pop into the grocery store, grab a couple of bottles of water, maybe a bottle of wine, and then head back to our Airbnb.
Well, it did end up raining this afternoon, but the rain has stopped now, and we're getting a little bit hungry.
Yeah, so I think we're going to head back into town and try to find some more traditional Romanian food to eat.
Everything that we ordered here was absolutely perfect, and they ended up having the best papanache that we had in all of Romania.
Today is day 3 of exploring Sighișoara, and unfortunately it's another overcast day.
Yeah, there's a chance of rain again this afternoon, so we popped by the car rental agency. We were hoping that we would be able to rent a car today. There is a nearby town called Sibiu that some people have suggested we have to go to and have to check out, and Google shows that the weather there is looking pretty decent today. Partly sunny to completely sunny in the afternoon, but unfortunately they have no car rentals available, not just today, but for the rest of the week. So if that's something that you want to do when you come here, I would recommend contacting them before you actually arrive to reserve a car ahead of time. We kind of figured it was something we could do spur of the moment since Sighișoara is so small, but that's not the case. So since it is overcast and kind of meh, we do have an activity that I think is fit for this sort of weather.
So Sighișoara is the birthplace of Vlad the Impaler, the guy that Dracula is based off of.
Yeah, so there are a few things that you can do here. One is you can visit the home that he was born in, but some people say that that isn't really worth the money and it's kind of corny. The other thing is a museum called Mystical Transylvania, which actually explains all about the life of the real Dracula. So I think we're gonna go check that out now.
Once we got to Mystical Transylvania, we found out that there was 2 different tour type things you can do. One side is the actual story of Vlad the Impaler, and the other side is the history of Sighișoara. It was 20 lei to do one or 30 to do both.
Yeah, so we're currently in the Sighișoara side, there are apparently 4 rooms that you can go in. You can pick Romanian or English, and then there's like a little video or something that tells a story about the history. So we're gonna go in and see what these stories are.
We finished up the history side. So one of the more interesting stories they have here was of Hermann Orbith, who was the father of modern rocket science. And he helped the Germans build the V-2 rocket. And later, he helped the U.S. win the space race against Russia.
Yeah, and he was actually born in Transylvania, which was cool, and lived in Sighișoara for a little while. The other stories, one was about the first invasion of the Citadel, which, having walked up to the Citadel, it's got a lot of stairs and a big wall all the way around, so I could see how it'd be hard to invade. But basically, somebody who lived inside tricked them into opening the gates. So that's how that happened. The Ottomans also took over Sighișoara for a while and were very violent, and they told stories of the torturous games that they would play. And then the final room was about the Casanova of Transylvania and his demise. So very interesting. Now we're going to head back down and go over to the Dracula side.
So just finish up the Vlad the Impaler side of the museum, and his life was definitely a little bit complicated.
Yeah, at the end of the exhibit, they ask you to decide if he was a hero or a villain, and it's harder than you'd think. He did at one point get a whole bunch of poor people into a banquet hall and then like light it on fire because he was sick of having beggars and poor people in the street. So that seems very bad. He also impaled over 20,000 people in a forest of impaled people. But also he really fought hard against the Ottomans, who were terrible and violent and tortured a lot of people in this region. So it's complicated, but it was definitely interesting hearing like the true like historical story as opposed to just the Dracula that we know around Halloween time back in the US.
We're getting a little bit hungry, so we came down from the Citadel because most of the restaurants up there are a little bit overpriced.
Yeah, and one thing that I noticed in Oradea as well as here is there are a bunch of very delicious smelling like kebab and shawarma type restaurants, and there's a very highly rated one that's basically just as you come down the hill. Prices are obviously much more affordable, and so I think that's what we're gonna go do for lunch right now.
So let's finish up our delicious lunch at the shawarma store. I got a beef shawarma with garlic and yogurt sauce. It was really good.
Yeah, yours was super tasty. I got the chicken, which was also really good. You can add all the vegetables that you want on it. So they had like onions and pickles and olives and lettuce and tomato. And then they had like 6 different sauces to choose from. We also ended with some baklava, and we got 3 bottles of sparkling water, and the price was still super reasonable, especially compared to the restaurants up on the hill. We are gonna head back up the hill to the Citadel though, because there is a little like wine cellar kind of place that makes the traditional Palenka, which of course we did try that in Hungary, and we tried it in Oradea as well. It's generally not been our favorite, but hey, you know, it could be the best one we've had yet. So far we have tried the plum, the pear, and the apple, and I have to say that all of them are much smoother and much more enjoyable than the ones that we had in Budapest. I think he said the secret here is that he ages them in these large wine barrels in the cellar, and that kind of smooths out those rough edges that we experienced so acutely when we were in Budapest.
This is the first. Șarbă, fetească albă, chardonnay, tămâioasă românească, Cabernet Sauvignon dry, rosé, Cabernet Sauvignon rosé demi-sweet, in fetească neagră.
Okay, so the first one, it kind of smells like a Viognier. It has that little bit of like tropical sweetness to it on the nose. It tastes like a slightly more acidic Viognier, like you get that green apple more and like the pineapple a little less, but it's nice. So my favorites were the first one and then the semi-sweet Cabernet Sauvignon, and then the local Romanian grape. I still haven't learned how to pronounce the name. I should, because we've drank, I don't know, 5 bottles of it thus far.
So we just finished up our tastings at Teo's Cellar.
Highly recommend. I know everybody does the Palenka tasting, and I do have to say that the brandies or Palenkas that we had here were really, really delicious, but the wine tasting was really cool. Of them, there was only 2 that were Cabernet Sauvignon and 1 that was Chardonnay. The rest were grapes that are local, and I don't know if they're really grown anywhere outside of Romania, so it was really neat, and the wines were quite tasty. Definitely recommend it. The space is quite beautiful as well, and the guy was super friendly, so it was a little pricey, but definitely worth it.
Today's our 4th day exploring Sighișoara, and we're very happy to have a very bright and sunny, warm day.
Yeah, finally. One thing I will say is that you probably don't need more than 2 or 3 full days to explore this town. There's not that much. It's very compact, it's very beautiful and very walkable, but we're running out of stuff to do. I think today we're just going to be heading back to a couple of our favorite restaurants, and the first one is a shawarma and kebab restaurant that we actually went to the first day that we got here, and we didn't film it, so we're going to go back and get lunch there now. Then I think we'll just walk around a bit, and then we'll head to our favorite dinner restaurant.
So we can now confirm that El Sayed Kebab beats shawarma store, hands down.
Yep, definitely our favorite shawarma here in town, and really our favorite like cheap, fast eat here. It was very delicious. We're still not sure of what our favorite dinner restaurant is. We loved the pizza place so much, and then also that one that had kind of like a wine cellar that had all the traditional Romanian dishes. It was super delicious, especially your beef goulash was super, super good. So I think we're going back to that one tonight, but that pizza, let me tell you, super good as well. The food here in Sighișoara, well, in Romania as a whole, has been very impressive and so fairly priced.
So after walking all the way around the Citadel, we decided to stop by the Orthodox Church to see if it was open, and luckily it was.
Yeah, it was super impressive inside, very beautiful. And after that, we figured we had earned ourselves a beer, so we headed up to Vintage Rooftop, and the waiter recommended their local beer made here in Sighișoara, and it was so good.
Yeah.
We had 2 each. It had a really beautiful view, and the weather, like I said, today has just been absolutely perfect. But now I think we are going to head back to the Airbnb and chill out for a little while before coming back out for dinner.
As we mentioned earlier, we're heading back to the Wine Cellar restaurant again tonight.
Yeah, that place was very good, and it had a lot of good options on the menu. It was one of those where I was trying to decide up to the last minute between 3 different things. So we are going to order different food tonight, and we'll show you what we get. For the record, this is 1 portion. Both of these, they just split it for us. So you can't just get 1 and split it. It's an order of 2 that they split. They're forcing us to eat this much. So this was our Airbnb for the past week in Sighișoara. And you can see there we have an amazing view to downtown. We did have the chairs set up there. Coming through the front door. And we have this nice little area to take off our shoes. And then through this door here, we had a comfortable couch. And we had a nice TV. Through this door was the king-size bed. It was a little firm, but it was still comfortable. And you can see we had a little rocking chair. Had 2 nightstands with lamps. And then there was a little rod for us to use as a closet. And then there's the TV. Through this door, we had the bathroom, which you can see had a shower that was a better height, as well as a bathtub, a nice sink, and we had a clothes washer, and of course a toilet. Finally, through this door here, we have a nice big fridge, big dining table, little storage over there with a couch, and then here is the gas stove and oven. Overall, we loved our stay here. It was clean, it was comfortable, and a great location. And now for that cost breakdown. We spent $395 for 7 nights in that very comfortable Airbnb. We spent $65 on transportation, $31 on entertainment, $76 at bars and on alcohol. We spent $322 at restaurants, and boy, was that food delicious. We also spent $69 on groceries and just $15 on personal care. That brings the grand total to $973, or just $139 per day. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please leave them down below. If you haven't already, check out last week's video where we visit the Romanian city of Oradea.